Okay, new video. I am now still on South Parks Road, facing the University Parks, and this is a gateway into the parks from South Parks Road. And this building is called South Lodge, and it was built for the park superintendent. It was built in 1893, and South Parks Road was very different then. You didn't have a road. South Parks Road wasn't anything more than a dirt truck, or more appropriately a cart track, apparently. And there was a long avenue of lime trees which had been built all the way from here, been planted all the way from here to a similar building near the University Museum. People described it as beautiful, and I think it must have been considerably nicer than what we see now. And South Lodge was planned against that backdrop. How wonderful. I'd like to know what that looked like. I suppose they didn't continue the lime trees all the way along. So now I'm in the University Parks. Oh yes, indeed, and they have done what I read. Until recently there was no gap there. The border continued all the way along, and you couldn't walk by the fence there. You had to go along the outside. I found a blog article saying that in February the border was radically tidied up. There'd been a belt of shrubs and trees between the fence and the edge of the herbaceous part, which had become horribly overgrown and really rather nasty. So they tidied that out. They removed some of the shrubs and coppiced others, and they did what's called crown lifting to the trees, which is apparently cutting away the lower branches. And I'm going to walk for my first time along here. The blog article exhorts everybody to do so that you can enjoy the new view and see the science area from a new perspective. I'm not so sure about that bit, but I'm happy to see the parks from a new perspective. So this is my first time in the path at the back of the Hayrick Border. And this is called the Hayrick Border because until 1937 or so, the parks didn't use mechanical mowing machines. It used animals. So there were sheep and possibly horses or cows as well. And I think this was where the hayricks were stored after the winter fodder was harvested. That is part of the science area. That is herbaceous border. So yes, you can see the herbaceous part much more clearly now, and I think it's rather nice, especially on a warm day like today. There's a lot of shade under the trees. And yeah, I see what they mean by cutting away the lower branches. And there's a little bit more, but not very much. So this is the outer edge of the Hayrick Border in the university parks, and I'm walking sort of south. There was a notice up until recently telling people to see and enjoy the red-hot poker. That's a type of plant, a monocotyledon, the long spiky leaves, from South Africa or nearby. I don't see any of them. The flowers, if I remember rightly, grow in densely packed clusters, possibly colour segregated, with red on top and whiter ones underneath. The nearest is those red flowers, but I'm pretty sure they're not red-hot pokers. Gnifophia, I think, is the Latin name. Still, there are other nice plants to look at. Those are... is that Mimulus? I'm not sure. Some of them do look as though they might want some water. Okay, so that's the Hayrick Border. Let's now go on to a building. So I'm going to go south to roughly the middle of the park. North to roughly the middle of the parks. Google Maps describes Oxford University parks as a vast expanse of manicured space, and that's pretty accurate. The parts that are not manicured are deliberately unmanicured. For example, there's a pétanque court somewhere in the long grass beyond the path there, and the grass around it is rather straggly and deliberately left to grow long. But most of the rest of it has been quite severely cut. So it's nice to sit on and read when the weather is like this. And the only problem with that is university building works. You've seen the construction work for the new psychology zoology building, and there's almost as much going on to the north of the parks in Norham Road, and this really does make a horrendous noise sometimes. So there are weeks when the only time you can actually get any peace in the parks is Sunday. Science area from an unexpected angle. If I were the university, I would think very seriously about a big research project to develop less noisy methods of construction. Not only would it benefit a huge number of neighbours of all building sites, but it would also save energy, because all that noise is energy and it's not being used for anything. There is a pancake stall, a crêperie, by the main gate, and that's another nice place to eat. I don't know whether they do their own coffee or whether you have to buy it from Horsebox. That is the back of the University Cricket Pavilion, which was completed in 1881 and designed by Sir Thomas Jackson. And Jackson was famous for a number of other buildings. Round here, that includes the Bridge of Sighs at the end of New College Lane, which I've shown you, and the examination schools in the High Street, roughly opposite the big bus stops and the Queen's Lane Coffee House. Cricket, university cricket, has been played in the parks since 1881, when the pavilion was finished. And it is apparently the only ground in the UK where you can watch so-called first-class cricket matches without having to pay. First class is a classification as to quality which has been agreed on by the major cricket clubs. sure what they're doing here, but they've been doing it for several months. Oh, this is so peaceful now. It looks as though they've finished the construction work anyway on the psychology zoology building. We really are very lucky to have this. And I think people feel that it's a safe space. They don't. You feel a bit vulnerable if you've stripped off clothes in order to lie in the sun, or especially to go to sleep with your stuff around you. And that seems to worry people less when they're using the parks than it does in some other spaces. I don't think I'd do that in the Angel and Greyhound meadow under Magdalen Bridge, for example. So here is the front of the pavilion. Very nice, light little building. Apparently it's the same distance away from the pitch as is the pavilion at Lord's. I don't know what that signifies, whether there's something deemed particularly good about the distance at Lord's, but it is anyway. What it doesn't seem to do is to tell the right time. That's north, so that's North Walk. They've given names to the lanes inside the park. That's North Walk, running along the trees. Lady Margaret Hall, the college, over in that direction beyond the parks. And the Charwell, as far as you can go in that direction. The log cabin sort of thing I've complained about before. I can't say that I like it. It's called the Tentorium, and it's where the parks admin and work teams meet and do their business. Well, out of curiosity, let's see how you make a cricket pitch. Well, it seems that you use something called Ongar loam. I'd have thought Ongar was too built up to have much extractable loam left, but maybe not. Okay, I'm getting battery warnings, so I'm going to end the video. So I've shown you the Hayrick Border, South Lodge and the Cricket Pavilion and a few trees, shrubs and plants in the university parks. See you next time.